Buongiorno, my name is Chiara Sbordoni and I teach Italian language, literature and culture at the University of Notre Dame, Rome. On behalf of our director, Silvia Dall'Olio, who for personal reasons can't join us today, I'm very happy to welcome you this morning. We are honored to host the concluding session of the International Conference, Human Freedom and the Test of Neuroscience and Artificial Intelligence, organized by LUMSA University and the International Doctorate in Contemporary Humanism, as part of the NHNAI project, New Humanism at the Time of Neuroscience and AI. I would like to express our gratitude to Professor Stefano Bianco for bringing to Notre Dame as one of our faculty associates this important collaboration, and without further delay, I will leave it to him to introduce the session. Grazie e buon lavoro.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I hope you are well. And I am very happy to chair this session because Laura and me, we know very well one another following the appartenance to the European Group on Ethics in Science and New Technologies. So I'm I enjoy this morning. Thank you, Laura. So just some words about Laura Palazzani, but I suppose that a lot of you do know Laura. Laura is trained in philosophy, bioethics and law. She is, since 2004, tenured third professor of philosophy of law at the LUMSA University, where we were until now. She is also chair of the LUMSA Ethics Committee for Scientific Research since 2015, member of the academic board of the PhD program in Contemporary Humanism since 2017, coordinator of the research group of the Department Director of Postgraduate Courses. So she has been twice member of the National Italian Bioethics Committee. She is in her third mandate as member of the European Group of Ethics in Science and New Technologies, the EGE. She still represents the Italian delegation of the DH Bio in the Council of Europe, of the UNESCO, and since 2021, she is also member of the National Committee of Pediatric Trials. I do not mention all the important involvements, especially in national and international research. In editorial boards, she has written a considerable number of books and articles. Her last book is published this year, Ethics of Research from Biomedicine to Social Sciences. This is the title. It is the Morcelliane editor. So for the Italian, you do know, I suppose. She was awarded 3 prestigious prizes, regarding Excellent Woman in Rome in 2011, Certificate of Merit Leonardo da Vinci 2016, and Honor Commander. I think this must be the most highest degree or prize, Honor Commander of the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic 2017. Dear Laura, this is very prestigious. We are very happy to hear you this morning. It's a real honor and pleasure, and I give you the floor with great joy.
Well, thank you very much for this maybe too prestigious presentation. Thank you very much for this invitation. Wonderful conference and also and also Notre Dame University for hosting today. And okay, I will try to say something on this very broad topic. So, considering my experience, luckily as in this. First of all, I want to say something about the paradigm shift from bioethics to technoethics. You all know what is bioethics. Because beings, not only human beings, in biomedicine, but now we are witnessing a paradigm shift from bioethics to technoethics because of this development of new biotechnological wave, it is called. So we have, so technology is nothing new, but the way in which technology is applied in biomedicine is a novelty to understand for non-experts, not non-technologists. For the speed of development, for the blurring lines between what were considered the traditional distinctions. I will make you some examples about that. And the invasiveness of the technologies on human beings, both on the body and mind. And on the other side, also the broad applications, because there are not many technologies I will mention will not be applied only in biomedicine, but also beyond biomedicine. So this is something new in this ethics applied to technologies. And I will try to say something about this, focusing on the concept of freedom, that is the concept of our Congress. Above all, I will use another terminology, it's not exactly freedom, but autonomy, that is always used in bioethics, in biomedicine, in the technologies applied in biomedicine. It means to be aware of something in making a choice. And I will try to let you know what does it mean autonomy is in this field. And I will try to say something about what is written in some documents, reports of ethics committees, because you all know the literature, books, articles, but maybe you don't know some reports, opinions of ethics committees, for example, the European Group of Ethics, where we work together with Marie-Jo, but also UNESCO, International Bioethics Committee, or OECD, or also the Council of Europe, and many other national committees in all the different countries in the world. They are specifically important to me because they are places where there are a lot of people, experts from different fields, so very interdisciplinarity. There is interdisciplinarity and pluralism. It means not only one ethical perspective, but a discussion on many different ethical perspectives. So there is a dialogue where there is a discussion on ethical challenges in order to frame a sort of governance of the technology. What does it mean, governance? It means a sort of regulation of the new technologies. That's not so easy in this new and with the speed of development of this new technological field. So, to focus these topics, the ethical challenges in neurotechnologies and AI, that are the two technologies mentioned in this conference. I will try to define neurotechnologies, and I use this definition that is in the last report of UNESCO International Bioethics Committee. Medical devices in order to access, assess, monitor, emulate, modulate, stimulate the structure function of the nervous systems. So many different functions of the neurotechnologies. Is in brackets all the acronyms. I hate acronyms, I would say, but there are a lot in neurotechnologies, and I don't want to go through them, you know them, but you see there are many different technologies in neurosciences, neurotechnologies, and many are more or less invasive, and this is the point on an ethical point of view. I will show you that. And then AI systems that often converge with neurotechnologies. I'm talking about the last use of AI, the so-called strong AI, so the use of brain data, thanks to the correlation of algorithms. So I'm talking about this kind of technologies. And above all, I'm talking about the application of neurotechnologies, AI systems to health of the patients, because of course medicine deals with the health of the patients. And I will try to make a distinction, and it's a little bit difficult to make this distinction because of the blurring lines between all these three different fields, but there are different ethical challenges. We consider neurotechnologies and AI systems applied to therapy. So, you all know what is therapy. So, prevention, repair, or rehabilitation of patients that is healed, of course, as a disease. Research is different. When I do research, it means I need to experiment something, but I don't know if it is safe and effective on the patient. And other thing is enhancement that was mentioned yesterday from Fiorella and many other speakers. That is the possibility to alter, augment the capacities, cognitive, emotional, moral capacities of healthy individuals. So I try to make these three distinctions that, of course, raise many different ethical issues. So first is therapy. So if we consider neurotechnologies applied to therapy, all the neurotechnologies applied to therapy are good on an ethical point of view. There is an ethical justification every time we have something that is for the good of the patients, even if, of course, we know there may be some side effects, some negative consequences, but generally speaking, there is an ethical justification when there is a proportionality between the benefit in order to cure, to prevent, cure, rehabilitate, care patients, and the risks involved. We have many applications of neurotechnologies now, so it is a wonderful opportunity for patients. For example, Parkinson patients applied to dementia, to obsessive compulsive behaviors, to dyslexia, to epilepsy, and I cannot mention a very long list of applications that are a big opportunity for patients. Of course, there are some problems in the application of these neurotechnologies if we compare with other technologies in biomedical field, because we have many invasive technologies. Think about electrode implants in the brain. Okay, so we need to measure and balance the benefits and risks. So these are the 3 points generally put in evidence in ethics with a neurotechnological application in therapy. First of all, the integrity of the brain and mind and mental integrity, because of course we can modify something in the application when they are very invasive in the brain, and so we need to assess, so the physicians need to assess and balance the benefits and risks. Also considering the authenticity and the continuity of personal identity. This is a specific problem of neurotechnologies, because sometimes patients, even if they have the benefit of therapy, they need to know that their personality can change. This is an experience above all of Parkinson patients, that sometimes they can, thanks to a neurotechnologist, they can move, and that is something very good for them, but they are disoriented, they feel a sense of alienation, so there is a sort of change in personality. So that's another problem of authenticity on an ethical point of view, and above all, autonomy. What does it mean, autonomy, in ethics applied to the technological field? It means we need informed consent. You all know what it is, informed consent. But it is very important to tailor the informed consent that should be really understandable for the patients receiving the information. For example, for a Parkinson's patient, he or she needs to know exactly what are the risks of that specific technologies and what are the benefits. And sometimes we know this informed consent is very technical, so a lot of neurotechnology is very technical and comprehensible. Let us say, with many acronyms, without real explanations, and often used as a defense for the physician. And this is not good on an ethical point of view. So we need to inform the patients about the risks, not only physical, but also psychological or emotional. And so there is a request of caution also in the therapeutic field in neurotechnologies. There are many challenges because some of the neurotechnologies are applied in biomedicine to patients, but some of them are still uncertain. So we don't have real proof of safety and effectiveness. And so the patients need to be informed about that, about these uncertainties. Then I want to say something about research that's very important in neuroscience and neurotechnologies. And there's a lot of research everywhere, but the main point is when you have technologies that are invasive. So doing the research, it means that you need participants that are voluntary, participating in research, and you need to balance the benefits and risks. And here the uncertainty is much higher, of course. And so generally, in this field, I think we need to apply what we have, and we have a lot of regulations of research, also on international level. For example, Oviedo Convention on Medicine and Human Rights, but it's also spread on international level. And the Declaration of Helsinki, you maybe all know, that is applied also to the neurotechnological field. And if we apply this regulation, we can do research in neurotechnologies, but when it is invasive, so it means there are a lot of risks for the patient, for the participants, we need to do research only when there is a severity of disease, when the disease is very severe, when there is absence of less invasive non-experimental therapies, otherwise we can't use it, when it is in the best interest of the person, of the participant to research, and when there is a minimization of risks. So there are some conditions in this field because of the uncertainties. And here we have a lot of challenges that are discussed in the field that are very similar to the genomic field. We have a big diffusion now of new genetic tests, genomic tests, and there is a mention to the challenge of incidental findings, and this happens also in neurosciences. So when the researchers are doing research in the brain, they can come up to unexpected results. So we didn't think to find these anomalies in the brain, but they find them. And the problem is when they are uncurable, so maybe the researcher detects an anomaly and there is no possibility to cure it, or they may clinically actionable. So it is possible to do something on a preventive level or on a therapeutic level. So in this field, there is a big discussion on autonomy. That is the right to know, the right not to know. So, and generally in the international discussion, it is considered the adult capable of doing a choice, making a choice. He can say, I want to know. Of course, the researcher needs to inform before that it is possible to have incidental findings during the research. And then the participant can express himself or saying, I want to know the results, or I do not want to know the results. The real problem, and there is an open discussion also in genomic field, Margherita Valerio knows it because we had a very long research on the field, on genomics, but it's very similar also in neurosciences. So when we have parents deciding for children, for minors, so this is my position, and I hope this position will be prevalent in the discussion. There is a sort of duty to know of the parents of these incidental findings when they are clinically actionable, because the decision of the parents is a surrogate decision. So it is a decision for another person that is particularly vulnerable. So there is a duty to know when these incidental findings are clinically actionable. So we can do something for the children. And then there is another discussion on the predictive value of brain images, because sometimes with neurotechnologists during the research, they can find out certain dispositions, so susceptibility to have a certain disease, and they can be curable or incurable. Sometimes the results can also have a false positive or false negative, and they can be on adults and minors. So the discussion is very, very difficult. And someone says that when we find something on a predictive level that is uncurable, there is a sort of right to an open future. It means maybe it is better not to say anything because there's nothing to do, and maybe people can live their life in an open way, not in a closed way. And then another field is neuroenhancement. Here also there's a blurring line because it is a field, of course, it's not therapy, neuroenhancement, but it is really strictly connected to research. Even if it is, to me, this is my opinion, a speculative debate now, neuroenhancement, because we do not have really research in this field. So it's very difficult to organize an experimentation of neuroenhancement because of the uncertainties. We don't know what are the consequences using very invasive technologies on healthy patients. So they are exposed to a very high risks, and maybe they can become dependent on these technologies without knowing the consequences. So I think that there is a sort of proportionality. So there is no proportionality between benefits and risks. So I think it is deontologically wrong to organize an experimentation on neuroenhancement. There is a big debate about that, but there is a lot of discussion. A lot of scholars are in favor of experimenting neuroenhancement. It means to become smarter and to have a cognitive augmentation, emotional augmentation, and also moral augmentation of our capacities. And many scholars are in favor because they say we are in a special situation now with the development of technologies, and we need to take this opportunity. Is of technological shortcut, so to say. So the idea that we experienced millions of years of natural evolution, as Darwin says, it's natural evolution, but now we can select the best in a shorter time. So we have an opportunity, and it is a sort of evolutive duty, as Harris says. So we need to do that for the evolution of humanity. But there are many criticisms on neuroenhancements because it is a non-accepted of nature that is given to human beings. I quote Sandel, for example, and it is fraudulent. It means we are not really honest towards the other people that do not enhance, and it is also unfair. So it is a big challenge to justice and equality. But in any case, there's a big discussion. But the point I want to underline in this focus on autonomy is what Sandel says. It's not the enhancement. In enhancement, it's not the raise of autonomy, but it is a decrease of autonomy. Because if we live in a very competitive society, we need to have a very high level of performance. So maybe if they will introduce enhancement, we will feel a hidden pressure. That's not so hidden, I should say. Sandel speaks about the social despotism. It's a very strong expression. It means our autonomy will be restricted. We cannot decide. We will we will be obliged to enhance ourselves on a cognitive level. And there will be a sort of duty to enhance. It seems very strange because the libertarians, who are the one, as Harris, Savulescu, who are in favor of enhancement, in the end they say we have a duty to enhance. So it's a contradiction because we want self-determination, on the other hand there's a duty to enhance. And it is a big question mark because there are alternatives. There is a strong discussion now on achievement as a word that could be considered as in opposition of enhancement. So we can achieve, we can acquire this alteration or even betterment, improvement of our cognitive capacities, emotional capacities, and moral capacities through virtues, or flourishing our virtues, not with neurotechnologies. So the other point I want to mention is neuro AI, so the use of brain data and the correlation with algorithms. And this is a new field of research that is growing in the sense that the idea is to correlate brain data on a neurological, psychological, mental level, together with feelings, thoughts, and actions in real life of people. So the idea is to identify patterns. Someone talked about brain reading. I don't know if it's a really correct expression, but in any case, we cannot really read the brain. So it means we can have correlations between some brain data and some thoughts, actions, feelings of human beings. Correlation is not causation, so there's no determination, cause-effect, but we can identify patterns. It's not a decoding in any case, but it is a correlation. And given that, there is a strong movement, just in these last years, that is pushing towards a redefinition of human rights, including also mental privacy and cognitive liberty. Two new expressions that are pushed above all. I want to quote Roberto Adorno, who is also a member of the Pontifical Academy for Life, and also Marcelo Ianca, who is a main scholar in this field, pushing towards this recognition. Mental privacy is considered the protection of individuals against unconsented third-party intrusion. It means that if we have profiles of mental characteristics of people, they can be used by someone else, maybe health insurances or workplaces. And so there could be a sort of neuro-discrimination that is a big challenge. And cognitive liberty, that's another expression saying that we need to protect freedom from interference and manipulation with mental processes. Because if we can read the mind, we can also survey and manipulate. I'm thinking about countries where there's no democracy, but where it's dictatorship, and they can use these technologies in order to control mental processes. And that is really something very, very challenging in our society. And if you think that mental privacy, cognitive liberty are now object of a discussion on the human rights field, you need to consider also that these technologies can be applied also beyond medicine. It means gaming, marketing, strategies, and education, as was mentioned yesterday, and in the military field as well, dual use. And this, of course, enlarges the debate. I want just to mention some of the opinions I in a certain way quoted in my speech. I want to mention some committees of bioethics on a national level, for example, in Italy, we discussed this question on neuroscience and human experimentation in 2010. The French Consultative Ethics Committee for Health and Life Sciences, so the French Committee for Bioethics, wrote a very interesting document on ethical issues arising out of functional neuroimaging in 2012. And then the Nuffield Council of Bioethics, that's another committee in UK, novel, that's a very interesting report, novel neurotechnologies intervening in the brain, 2014. I want to quote some other international ethics committee. EGE, that is European Group of Ethics in Science and New Technologies, is writing now an opinion on neuroscience and neurotechnologies, is forthcoming within this year, because this mandate will finish in December or January 2025, so it's forthcoming. Then there is a very interesting report that was issued by the Committee for Human Rights in the field of biomedicine and health, the one of the Council of Europe, on common human rights challenges raised by different applications of neurotechnologies in biomedical field, a report of Marcelo Ienca, and then OECD recommendations of the Council on Responsible Innovation in Neurotechnologies, 2014, and International Bioethics Committee of UNESCO, a report on ethical issues of neurotechnologies. This was a very important report in 2021, and now they are discussing at UNESCO another document that's open to consultation, that it is possible, not yet decided, that could be discussed to the General Assembly of the United Nations in 2024. So we are maybe in November. And that's very important because maybe we are going towards the so-called recognition of a very, of a statement, of a declaration. It's nothing more than that, but a universal declaration on human rights and neuro rights. That is possible, but it's still in discussion. And I want just to quote some interesting documents that are specific on enhancement. And the first one was in USA, so in the US President's Council on Bioethics. Many of you come from USA, so you know much better than me that it depends on the President of USA to decide whether to appoint a committee on bioethics or not. And the Presidential Council on Bioethics in 2003, I don't remember who was the president in that years, maybe Bush, I don't remember. Bush, it was Bush, Beyond Therapy, that was very interesting document. Beyond Therapy means enhancement. So when you don't cure someone, but you alter capacities of healthy individuals. Beyond Therapy, Biotechnology and the Pursuit of Human Improvement. And then we have many other documents, one in Netherlands, the other one, two of them in the Italian Committee for Bioethics, another one in the French Committee for Bioethics. So you see, there is a really very important production in all these committees on these topics. So I try to conclude saying something on also on the importance on a philosophical level to rethink humanism. So our PhD is on contemporary humanism, and so this is exactly the point. So the real problem in the discussion now on this whole passage from neuroethics to neuro rights, there is a big discussion on that, as I told you before. The real problem is the same in philosophy, that has been on which there is a reflection of a lot of years on what is a person. And so the risk in this field is to reduce the person to the sum of neurons, to brains, or to the data, brain data gathered, AI technology. So the person is more than a sum of neurons, brain data. So we need to demonstrate because many scientists, if you're discussing all these topics, think are determinism, or I steal the expression from Paolo Benanti that says in a dataism of perspective where we reduce everything to data, the person and data, much more than brain data, much more than neurons. And so, of course, we go back to the discussion about the relationship between brain, mind, but all inside the context of the concept of human person. And the other point is also the reflection on autonomy, as I told you, on two different levels, the concept of personal identity, because these technologies can change the personality, the continuity of identity, and this is a point that is mentioned also in the UNESCO report, and the awareness. That's very important now, both in the therapy research field, to be aware about the consequences of the use of technologies. And we need proportionality between benefit and risk, and also justice. I want to mention justice because even if in research we will find, as we hope, safe and effective treatments, also invasive, in neurotechnologies, we need to guarantee the access to everyone. Sometimes these technologies are very expensive, so there's also a problem of inequality of access. So there is now a call for neuro rights. There is a big discussion because UNESCO is pushing towards a recognition of these neuro rights. Some other scholars are against because they think, but there is a proliferation of rights, and so we don't need to, every time we have a new rights, to approve another declaration. So there is a little bit discussion on that, but the point is that we need to govern these new technologies, and sometimes the old regulations are not enough to regulate the novelty of this technology. So I end my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, yes, it was. Dear Laura, it was a brilliant and amazing conference, very, very helpful for our understanding about autonomy, liberty, all the reductionism. I think we have a lot of questions, and I don't want to give the conference again. So I give you the floor, and yes, I think this must be a very, very interesting discussion that we could have. Yes, please. Could you come here? Laura, could you sit here? So we use the procedures we have used yesterday.
We have a microphone.
Yes, okay. You have a microphone?
Somewhere.
Somewhere. So we can do for the following person.
All right.
Okay, but the floor is yours.
So the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is 75 years old, and you did want to say that we are working, UNESCO is working for a new declaration, but I like that. But you also quoted the General Assembly of the United Nations, and actually this year's General Assembly of the United Nations, New York, 23-24 September, is dedicated to the Summit of the Future. The Summit of the Future means rethinking, updating the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, if we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, AI plays a role, obviously, in Sustainable Goal 3, health, Sustainable Goal 4, education, and possibly for food security. Do you think that AI can be propositive? So when we redraft the Sustainable Development Goals, which is something that will happen at the end of September, do you think that AI will have a positive role, or are we just saying this is dangerous? So this is my question.
Thank you very much. So I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
No, it doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
The other side.
Okay, it was. Thank you very much for the question. As you know, UNESCO issued in 2021 the recommendations for the ethical use of AI and was approved by the General Assembly. And there is also mention on sustainability as a point. So the idea of UNESCO is that AI opens to many opportunities. So we're not only, of course, ethics tries to underline some risks. So sometimes ethics underlines the risks, but there are a lot of opportunities, as you told. So the idea of UNESCO is that we need to apply ethics with certain requirements. That is the human control. So it means we cannot use AI outside the human surveillance, the so-called human in the loop. The second one is to also guarantee explainability of AI. And the third one, that's very important, is to not to have bias in the data set that trained AI. So these are the main, but many others. So the idea is that we should use AI in a positive way, considering these ethical requirements, so that the applications of AI is an improvement of humanity, avoiding certain risks in the application of the technology. So sometimes but sustainability is one point that is often underlined. My point is that the use of AI is sometimes not very sustainable in the sense that you use a lot of energy in the technology and that you have a lot of materials, PC and so on. So you need to you have a sort of damage of environment. But in any case, you need to balance the importance of the use of AI, but also sustainability. So I think we can be compatible.
Stefano, have you give the microphone to...
Au podium.
But
C'est mieux
could
d'aller
you...
au podium.
Who could give the microphone?
Non, c'est mieux d'aller au podium.
Non, mais si on le distribue,
non,
ça marche pas.
Pour l'enregistrement de
Ah, so please. Sorry.
Thank you very much for the wonderful outline of what the neuroethics and the regulation that's going on. And as you pointed out, that the genomic discussions are almost like returning back again with the neuroethics. I mean, it's almost very similar discussions. My question is in terms of like precautionary principle is something that we can use in regulations. So how much is being employed in a way? Because especially with the neuroscience, we need to be more cautious due to the risks involved. So how much of precautionary principle can be employed in terms of regulation and ethical principle? Thank you.
So thank you very much for your question. Because precautionary principle was very often used, in OGM discussion and so on. But then there was a big problem on the use of the concept, because there were different interpretations of precautionary principle, and the strict interpretation was considered as an obstacle to the progress of technology. So if you, for example, consider the precautionary principle as I do not want to use a technology until I have a proof very certain that is safe, effective, and does no harm to human beings, animals, environment. We are stopped, so the technology stopped. So there is a worry against that. That's why the word precautionary is going to decrease now in the regulatory field. In the ethical debate, I mentioned NAFEL Council of Bioethics, for example, in the report I mentioned before on neurotechnologies. They called about pre-caution, separate, and they use then the word caution, better than precautionary principle. And we can translate it also on, we can use other words that are more philosophical, as prudence, wisdom. So in that sense now, It's less used precautionary because of these interpretations, but generally, of course, caution is used because of the uncertainties of these technologies. So the idea is to balance and to try not to stop the progress, but on the other hand, not to admit everything because it's very risky. So to try to balance. And this is very important in neurotechnologies, for example, because sometimes we have technologies that can be used for therapy and on the other hand also for enhancement. And so we cannot stop the use of these technologies because we fear enhancement, because on the other hand we stopped also the research on therapy. So it's very difficult to balance. But maybe it's preferable to use caution than precaution because of these ambiguities in literature.
Thank you, Laura. Thierry?
So thank you very much for this nice talk. I have two questions. A short one, I wonder what is the impact today of the prospective program by the National Science Foundation, the famous text of Rocco and Hall in 2002, which was really a programmatic text about the converging technologies and the IC, where enhancement is promoted, I would say. And what is the impact, even if in Europe we do like to make the distinction between to repair and to enhance? And that's my first question, so kind of background, techno-economical background. The second question is a special case, but on Wednesday I was speaking about paraplegic people with the use of exoskeleton piloted by HAI system, which is a question of liberty to have freedom, I would say. Now we know that the implant can have an effect on the evolution of the character. I would say the character. It's more complicated than that. And when I was speaking to the young man who was in this case, he told me, okay, I would like to, no problem if I change my character. The problem is I was completely dead and now I am able to restore a new life. So I'm not sure we are not going to give a definitive resolution of that, but that's a kind of special cases which is perhaps more and more expanded.
Thank you very much for the question. So, yes, you mentioned exactly the document that was the beginning of the discussion of enhancement in 2002 of Rocco and Convergent Technologies. They pushed towards the idea of perfection and the idea of enhancement. I think that now the discussion on enhancement is a little bit decreasing. That is my perception. Because, for example, at UNESCO, when we discussed the topics, I also proposed enhancement, but it was not accepted because it was not considered so urgent. And also in Europe, at the European Group on Ethics, we discussed about that, but then we didn't consider it as worthwhile discussing. So you don't find really, internationally speaking, a committee dealing with these topics. The point is that we do not have any proof about safety and efficacy. And that is something we have maybe real life applications, very asystematics. Let's say some students in campus, but also some workers everywhere, they use something in order to enhance it, but we don't know what are the results. There's no systematic studies about this. And so we don't know about the benefits, about the risks. So there's no experimentation, no real experimentation on that. And this is something we need to understand. The other point you mentioned, the exoskeleton, the robotics, and so the real problem is that they are very expensive now, and so they can help people but it's very expensive, so generally it's very difficult to have the possibility to use them. And the problem of electrodes implantation in brains and the possibility to change character, I think it's up to the autonomy of the patients to say and to know, above all, the risks of a change of character and maybe to accept it because they prefer to have a different life. What I think it's difficult to accept, I just mentioned the Neuralink experiment of Elon Musk. I find it, I don't know the details, but no one knows the details of this experiment. That's the point. I'm really skeptical about the authorization. Somewhere I found out that FDA, Food and Drug Administration, authorized it. I don't know how it is possible, and maybe also the ethics committee of Neuralink. Do they have an ethics committee? I don't know. But in order to move a mouse on a screen, a paralyzed patient has been implanted with electrodes with many risks of infections and everything like that. So I'm really astonished about that. And so, first of all, I think we need to balance the autonomy of the patient, we need to inform about the risk, but there is a responsibility of the researcher also, a deontological responsibility. Because even if you have in front of you someone that says, okay, I want to do everything, I accept every kind of risks. Yes, but the researcher is responsible of what he's doing on the other individual. So I think we need a balance between autonomy and responsibility.
Yes, so I joined the for thanking you a lot for your presentation. It was really great. I'd like to expand on John Selvamani's question about precautionary principle, because of course, what you answered, but I think sometimes I refer to Hans Jonas for you mentioned various interpretations of the precautionary principles, and I think the use we make of the notion, at least in France, about what I heard in some of the domains, it's a way of killing almost what Jonas was saying, because it's a perversion of the principle. Like, it's if there is a risk, then we don't do. While, as I understood, Jonas was trying to expand a bit Kantian ethics, saying the imperative is to not only being able to universalize now, but kind of same type of logic with the idea that you need to confront the maxim of your action with the possibility of a permanence of a genuine humanity and probably genuine life now and in the future. And so I guess it's another interpretation that you evoked when you said there are multiple interpretations, but I'm a bit frightened by the fact that we could, because of the perversion, that would be totally progress opposed, saying the very moment there is a risk, we shut off because of the precautionary principle. We forget that dimension that is about not taking the risk of undermining the possibility that there is a future for genuine humanity. And then I guess we return in all that discussion about what is a genuine humanity is if everybody or most of us accept to have an helmet that measures our brain data when we look at something, then the possibility that open, even if we give our individual consent, balancing ourselves the risks. So in terms of caution, that could open a possibility that would undermine what it means to be human at broad. So I guess this is reflected in the committee, of course, but maybe it's important to keep, if we don't call that precautionary principle, it's okay, but another term for that, for those and AI Act, I guess there's something in the DNA that is with the unacceptable risks, but it's not that clearly put forward. So I don't know how it's happening also behind the scene, and should we maybe not put that more forward directly? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this consideration. I don't think it's a question, but the point is that maybe precautionary principle is less used now, but there's a strong use of the concept of responsibility. That's something very, very similar. And I am really very surprised let us say, I am dealing with bioethics since many years, and above all, in the new emerging technologies, there is a sort of convergence on the concept of responsibility, because many people fear the risks. So I just want to mention something. For example, in Europe, you know, we have the AI Act, so the regulation of artificial intelligence. And it is the first time that in the consideranda, the reports of, unluckily not EG, that was the first one, but the high-level group of ethics and science and new technologies on AI was mentioned. That is, a report on ethics of AI is mentioned in the regulation, and inside, in the first part of the regulation, you find a lot of reference to ethical principles, to values. The concept of responsibility is not written precaution, but responsibility. It's something very good for our perspective. And then there is a mention to the human-centric AI. It's incredible to me, because human-centric is really the explicitation of the fact that we need technology, but we need to keep the human being and the dignity of a human being at the center. And finding this conception in a regulation on AI, we are all talking about AI, but we converge in the recognition of the dignity of a human being that must be at the center. So we have a responsibility towards the development of this technology. And I think it's something good. And also in the neurotechnological debate, I find a lot of caution and responsibility on the consequences. And so I think there is as I try to schematize, of course, but in the discussion on bioethics, above all, beginning, end of life, we find a lot of pressure on self-determination. Now, there's a lot of explicitation of responsibility, and so this is something good, I think, even if it is not use the word the precaution.
Thank you. I'm Kubyung Kim from South Korea. Thank you so much. I heard your overview of discussion on these very important issues, including neuroethics. And also, if you say, I can see a little bit on ecology of European scholars on this issue. My passion is a little bit related, but I want to push yourself on the issue of transhumanism. So transhumanism, you say duty to enhance. Maybe your own position, or generally speaking, European position on that matter. Also, you understand long-termism, what they call effective altruism. That is a kind of Nick Bostrom and those kind of guy saying that, you know, in long term, so kind of enhancement, and then our significance is not existential problem crisis, but also our descendant, including software descendant, so kind of thing. So there is a kind of a news behind the summit of future in UN. Actually, the moving force behind that summit is long-term, the effective long-termism. So society, long-termist or effective altruism. So I want to see how you have a position on that issues, and then over European ecology on this issue. And the other thing is what I may suggest some insight. Yesterday, I have a good talk on AI ethics. So they are trying to make a paradigm shift from human right to human dignity. And why you don't say just from Euro ethics to Euro dignity, So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So, of course, transhumanism and posthumanism is a movement, but I don't think so. The idea to go beyond humans and to improve technologies in order to go beyond and so have enhanced individuals and to, in a certain way, to emancipate humans from bodies that are limited and enhance ourselves in a world where we have only technologies, a perfect life. But this idea, I think, at least in Europe, is marginalized because it is the idea of technocentrism that is exactly the opposite of human-centrism. So the transhumanists put at the center the technology, the development of technologies. It need to go beyond humans because humans are limited and technologies are perfect. Human-centric approach that is written also in AI Act in Europe means we need to put humans at the center. It doesn't mean we need to stop technologies, but we need to monitor technology and to think that technology is not a destiny. It means that we are not passive because we are the ones who construct technologies and we need to construct them in a good way. That's the idea of Europe. I think it's a very good idea to have a sort of anticipation of ethics in the design of technologies. Ethics by design. So we need to educate developers, informatics, engineers, so that they develop technologies just being aware about the ethical requirements. And this is something happening. So that's very interesting. There is a strong interaction and something happening. So I think technocentric, of course, it is one perspective. You're right in mentioning it, but I think at least in the European discussion is a little bit marginalized, and in EU discussion, the human-centric approach had a prevalence, as we see also in AI Act.
Thank you. Last question. Sorry, but we have to finish it.
Firstly, I'd love to thank you for your presentation. I loved every minute of it. We've mentioned a lot about this duty for neuroenhancement in this race and how Darwinism gives the idea of survival of the fittest. We're going to get there at some point. But then we also mentioned this idea of access for individuals who would then have access to this, you call it yourself, justice, to the possibilities. But I can't help but consider if these neuroenhancements are developed to significantly augment cognitive abilities, should these enhanced individuals, in your opinion, be legally and morally held to a higher standard than unenhanced individuals? And then if we, for the second part of my question, you also mentioned the idea of autonomy in informed consent. But for example, if we take the idea of body integrity, which is an issue in patients, for example, with BIID, body identity integrity disorder, where does the responsibility lie regarding the artificial intelligence and decision making of that person who had no control of body augmentation beforehand? These are my two-part questions.
Okay. Thank you so much. So the question of enhancement is a big question, of course, and one point is the awareness about risks, and the other point, as you mentioned, the question of justice, because if we have only, let's say, one scenario possible, safe and effective answers, that's not the update solution now, so we don't have any safe and effective enhancers. Even we think they enhance, but we don't know. But if we have that, there will be a big problem of justice, because they will be, of course, expensive, because think about the pharmaceutical market on enhancers in a very competitive society. So there will be a very big injustice, inequality between rich enhanced and poor unenhanced. And think also about the gap between healthy people, enhanced, and people with disabilities. You see, on international level, the strongest movement against enhancement is the association of a representative of people with persons with disabilities, because I think this is a gap that we will go towards a society that will be indifferent without any kind of empathy and compassion towards people that live with disabilities, because we want perfection. So Sandel, I think the book Against Perfection is a wonderful book, and says, no, we need to accept what is given. We need to research, to improve our life, but we need to respect some limits with humility, he says, and that's something. Otherwise, we will go towards a very competitive and non-solidaristic society. And the problem is not only enhanced people, non-enhanced people with disabilities, but think about the diffusion of this enhancement in the world, where we have many continents where, of course, enhancement is only a sophisticated argument of Western, civilized, and very healthy and very rich societies. That's why at UNESCO we didn't accept to discuss enhancement, because, of course, there are many other countries where they have many other problems. That is the access to nutrition, to water, food, and something different, not the sophisticated enhancing of cognitive abilities. And so this is really a huge issue on justice that we need to understand on a very global and perspective.
Many thanks, dear Laura, for this amazing discussion we just had. I think it was really fascinating. You have a very balanced way to tackle with this very huge and complex issues of this techno-ethics, so as you called it, and with this paradigm shift. I think we could go on for hours with you in discussion, because it is really touching our heart, our human heart, and but it's not possible. Stefano will tell us that we have now a coffee break.